Hi, I'm Rebecca Mara, and I'm an intuitive coach and a somato-emotional energy worker. And I want to talk today about my experience with the Akashic Records. And it's not me teaching about anything, I'm just telling you about my experience. And I'll give you a little bit of background. And the first story has a little bit more build up, but what happened was actually very simple. So first I want to tell you that I've noticed there is a huge difference between Rebecca, the personality, and the conscious being, the one with the ego and all of that, and me, my soul. My soul feels a lot more real to me, and it moves a lot faster. It does and says things that Rebecca, the personality, is not really aware of. So I'll say things all the time when I'm in my soul space where I'm like, where did this come from? Like, Rebecca, the personality, is not saying this. It's the voice of my soul. And so they have really different operating systems. And so when I've entered the spaces of the Akashic Records, I didn't do it intentionally. I just ended up there. And so this again is my soul kind of doing its thing or whatever it kind of wants. And then all of a sudden my personality or my conscious ego awareness can notice it once in a while. So I'll give you more of a concrete example of what happened the first time. So this is the longest channeling I ever did. And at this point in my life, I didn't know what the fifth dimension was. I didn't know what star beings were. I didn't know like Egyptian gods and goddesses. And actually I had a lot of judgments about things. And that's kind of how I know that they're real and that it's not something, that these spiritual experiences are real and not something I'm imagining, because my ego wouldn't have it. My ego would be like, what are you talking about? Like, you're a hippie, like, where are you getting that from? You're kind of woo-woo. So at this time, when people talked about the Akashic Records, I just thought of weird ladies with weird websites that weren't done very well, and it was kind of like, okay, you're gonna enter a sacred portal and get all the information from God, okay. Like, it just always seemed weird to me. And then, so anyway, that week when this happened, I kept seeing 444 everywhere. And I'm not a numbers person. I also find that when people are seeing numbers, sometimes it's actually their guides talking to them or giving them a sign. But I also think a lot of times it's just people making meaning out of something that isn't necessarily, like, they can make any meaning that they want out of seeing numbers, right? So there's a lot that's open to human interpretation there. So anyway, this week I was seeing 444 a lot, and that's the only week that I remember seeing a lot of a number. Then also that week, everywhere I went, there was like Isis, 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 Isis. And I actually thought that the people that were into Isis were pretty weird people that had some kind of like shadow side they were playing out, like looking for more attention or more female sexuality power or something like that. And so I wasn't into that either. So anyway, this is my this is my background of what legitimizes part of my experience. So anyway, I'm sitting in bed and this channel of light opens above me, and I just kind of went with it. Like, when this kind of stuff happens, I'm like, okay, I'm interested, what's going on? And I had a sense that these were beings, right? Like, something was opening up this portal for me, or this channel. And I said, who are you? And they said, we're from Orion, from the fifth dimension. And I didn't know, like, I thought Orion probably was something related to the solar system, but I didn't really know what. So I Googled it and I was like, oh, Orion, okay, it's this star system. And I didn't know what the fifth dimension was either. So I looked it up and I'm like, fifth dimension, okay, so this is supposed to be like a spiritual place. And I asked them, I said, or actually they told me, I asked them, what is your relationship to Isis? Because Isis kept showing up. And they said, she is our mother. So to these beings from Orion, Isis was their mother, and the star that the Egyptians would worship Isis on was in Orion. So here I have all these connections happening. And what I experienced was I asked them a couple questions. They showed me images from past lives that explained some stuff that I was feeling now. But what I mostly remember is that it was kind of like a God realm where everything is, there really isn't suffering. Everything is seen with these bigger eyes. Like I could see how every part of my life made sense and all connected together to play out this one story. Like everything was like significant and everything had purpose. And also the feeling was kind of like being a god in a way. Like everyone felt like a god and everything felt like a god. So it was this amplified state. It was really interesting. So then I am in the Akashic Records all of a sudden. And I know that just because I'm in this room that's almost like a cathedral. And on the left and the right are books and books and books made of gold. And in the center is almost like an altar with an all-knowing God in the center. And so these images aren't exactly real. The images are representations. So when I've seen spirits, like maybe it's an owl, or it could be Christ, or I have seen Isis recently, they show images, but the images aren't the being themselves. It's a representation that our mind can understand. So when I'm seeing this Akashic Records, this isn't exactly what it is, but this is an image that's them showing me where I was. And so what happened for me is I automatically went to that altar where the all-knowing God was, and I was so excited to worship. Like I was like so devoted. I was like praying to this God and like saying thank you. And I enjoyed having the opportunity to worship this all-knowing aspect of God. And then all of a sudden this experience is over and I don't remember anything else. The second episode that I had, I don't even know what I was doing. I was doing nothing again, and that's when this stuff kind of happens. So anyway, I'm kind of probably just sitting in bed doing nothing, and all of a sudden I'm at these gates, and I hear this talking, and it's like, she can't come in, she's not ready yet, like a lot of like talking about whether I could come in or not. And I'm kind of like, what? Why can't I come in? And they said she can't come in. She's wearing a cloak of shame. And a cloak of shame is inherently human experience. It's sort of like when we fell from grace and we entered the human realm, we inherited shame as soon as we entered this place. I just thought of this for the first time too. So it's kind of like Adam and Eve when they realized that they were naked. It's that same kind of thing. And so when I heard that I was wearing a cloak of shame, I immediately adjusted, not Rebecca the personality, because Rebecca the personality has no idea how to do any of this stuff, but my soul immediately turned on a royal cloak. So like a royal robe that was something I could wear to show reverence and to worship and be devoted. So again, I entered, and there again were these gold books on left and right, and in the center, an all-knowing God again. And so I go up to the center again, and I worship this God. It's like the greatest delight, the greatest privilege to be able to worship and to show my love and adoration, to be on my knees in front of this all-knowing aspect of God. And as I was leaving, I said, and this is, the part of me that's like, hey, I want to take this back to earth. And the part of me that likes to kind of elevate my practice. So anyway, I was like, can I take one of these books back with me? Like, this would be so great on earth, and it could really help people. And they said no. And I was like, please, like it just would help so much. And they were like, no. And then they kind of were joking with me, and they were like, here, you can take this one little tiny string. And I was like, what can I do with that? I can't do anything with that. Like, that's all you're gonna give me? And they're like, okay, you need to go learn your lessons yourself. We're not gonna give it all to you. And so I was like, okay. So that's the end of my story, my personal stories with the Akashic Records. And what I've understood them to be now is the Akashic Records are more like the field. And the field holds all information of anything that's ever happened. It's the infinite field. And if we learn how to listen, which is, it's quieting the mind, getting really present, and just being open. And you can direct a question or direct your attention to something, but it's all about listening and being able to receive an answer. So you can't have any agenda of what that's going to look like. You can't have any, you can't be in your ego. You have to be really present. You learn to tap into this certain state of consciousness where you can get answers. And as you practice, it gets clearer and clearer and clearer. So anyway, I guess I could say that daily in my practice, I'm accessing the information from the Akashic Records, which is really just the field. It's infinite information. It's everywhere, right? Like you can tap into one thing and there's infinite information in that. I could look at a plant and probably get whatever information I wanted about the universe if I learned how to talk to it. Well, I have done that actually. So anyway, that's in a nutshell what my experience with the Akashic Records and a little bit of like how spirit works and how connecting to the field is. And I just wanted to share this story. I want to start sharing more of my experiences with spirit because it's fascinating. And also, I would love it if you wanted to subscribe to my channel just to get more interesting videos. And also, I am offering coaching sessions, so if you'd like to set up an appointment, there's a link below. And I hope you all are having a lovely day or a lovely evening, and I will revisit you soon. Take care.